Welcome to the K9s for Veterans podcast, Operation Honor. Join us on this amazing journey. Hosted by Michael Tellerino, your guide through these inspiring stories along with special co-host Kenny Avery. In this podcast, we will share personal stories and highlight impactful programs that empower our veterans. Discover the impact that service dogs have in the lives of veterans. Tune in to witness heartfelt moments and transformational journeys. Get ready to connect, learn, and be inspired by our veterans' stories. Operation Honor is here to uplift and empower. Let's begin this important mission together.
Thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Mike Tellerino. I am going to be your host for tonight's podcast, along with my co-host, Ken Avery. Ladies, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, first of all. It's an honor to have you on my podcast
You're
tonight.
welcome. Thank you for having us.
It's my honor, believe me. Angela.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your son?
Okay, my son Sean, and it's spelled S-E-A-N because he was named after Sean Connery. From about the time he was in the 6th grade, he always said he wanted to be in the military. He had no interest in going to college. He was going to go in the military. And while he was in the military, while he was in the Army, he obtained 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and was working on his doctoral degree when he died. He was 5 weeks from retirement when he died by suicide. February 28th, 2021, he left behind a wife and a 12-year-old son at the time. Giovanni was 12. Next week, Giovanni will be 17. So we're going up. We're coming up to year 5 for Sean. He was, nobody says anything bad about you after you pass away. Everybody has all good things to say, no matter if you were the worst person, whatever. But, he really was a good kid. He volunteered, at the rec center. Here that was before they had like travel baseball and football and all of those things. And, he worked at the ball fields on Saturday mornings, cooking hot dogs and hamburgers for all the people that were there. He was just a good kid. You never know what they're going through when they're going through it. I know him and I had conversations about, I would say to him, Sean, you need to go talk to somebody. And his answer to me was always, I'll lose my job, Mom. I'll lose my clearance. I'll lose my job. He was a cyber guy. His last duty station was at Fort Belvoir in Lorton. And, that was the one thing that he was really concerned about, was losing his clearance and the ability to continue in the military or, after the military. The one thing, his dad always says, I don't know where we went wrong, because we're a Redskin household and Sean was a Cowboys fan. And he was a Cowboys fan from the time he was a little teeny kid.
Yeah.
And, he would sit in the chair and watch football, and he never said a word. Like, he never said anything. He wasn't that fan, but he would never say anything until the game was over. And then it was just like, balls to the wall. He was just busting on whoever they were playing, But, that just was a running joke in our house, because, we're Redskin fans and he was a Cowboy fan. And my husband always said, I don't know where we went wrong with that. And I was like, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
He
was just a little different.
I won't say nothing about the Redskins, because I love the Redskins.
So do we. I mean, they're suck right now, but it is what it is.
They're still the Redskins.
Yeah. We we don't want to call them the commanders unless we absolutely are trying to be PC. But you know, since he's died, you know, one of the things I miss is like there's no new pictures, there's no new memories, there's no, you know, we talk about him all the time because, you know, I feel like as long as we talk about him, you know, no one's ever going to forget. Well, we won't forget him, but you know, he had an impact on not only people that knew him locally, but people that served with him. You know, he was just that guy. He was just that guy. And so Thanksgiving was our favorite holiday. And you'll see the picture that I sent that went on your Facebook page. Him and one of his buddies that he was stationed with came, and that's the bunny suit from A Christmas Story, because when the kids were little, we had to watch that 24 hours, and that was before they showed it all the time and messed up the whole spirit of it. But him and one of his military buddies wore that bunny costume to Thanksgiving, and so he was always bringing people home for Thanksgiving. And so now, you know, my husband and I, that's how one of the things we do to continue to honor him is last year for Thanksgiving, I had 70. This year, I hope to have more. I've connected with a local military base here, and I'm trying to do what I can to just make sure that if, you know, the holidays are tough. And, you know, I try to make sure that's how I honor him, is to just give back. That's what I do, is I give back.
How do you cope with the loss of your son?
You know, it's like that old beer commercial. Some days are better than others. You know, some days I'm okay with, you know, I'm okay. And then some days I can hear a song on the radio, or, you know, watching a dog food commercial on TV, and, you know, it just, it hits you, and you just, you know, let it run its course, and then you move forward. I don't know if there's really any coping with it, because I don't have a choice. You know, nothing that I can say or nothing that I can do will ever change that. And so for me, I have to keep moving forward. You know, it sucks, this journey, Amy, and you know, Vicky, right? Vicky, did I say that? Yeah, it sucks. There's no nice way to say it. It just sucks. And you have to figure out for yourself, do you want to never talk about your son or your daughter or your hero ever again? Or do you want to continue to tell stories about him so that other people know what a good person he was? And, you know, like I said earlier, no one's going to say anything bad about your kid after they pass away. But, you know, I just have, that's how I cope. I you know, talk about him. I serve in my community. I, you know, talk about veteran suicide. You know, I'm proud of how he served, and I'm not ashamed of how he died. You have to, for me personally, I have to have that type of mindset, because I come from a generation, no one said the word suicide. You just didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about it. And I think when you talk about it, whether it helps one person, whether you know about you're helping one person or not, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, because I don't have anything else. I can't do anything else. Nothing that I do or say or act how I act is going to bring him back. So I have to bring honor to him
Right.
by talking about him and giving back and helping where I can.
And so that's why we built the memorial in Shanahan State Park, because we didn't want these young men to be forgotten ever. They needed to be and need to be remembered for their service to our country. They really do. You know, they're all too forgotten sometimes, and we'll never let that happen as far as the memorial goes.
Well, I thank you.
You know, is there anything else you'd like to say about your son? I'm sure.
I mean, I could sit here and talk about him till the cows come home.
Tell us a little funny story about him.
Well,
You
besides the
definitely,
fact he was a Cowboy fan,
you are definitely
Um,
Virginia.
sir.
No,
What kind?
no, I'm just loving I love your accent.
Uh,
I love
So-
your accent. I love accents.
I had the opportunity to meet Jelly Roll a couple of weeks ago, and he asked me about Sean, and what I always say is, he's named after Sean Connery, and Jelly Roll said to me, "What was the goofiest thing about your son?" And the only thing that popped in my mind was that he was a Cowboy fan, because, like, that was the worst thing about him. He was a Cowboy fan. Come on. He I could just tell you all kinds of stories. I remember when he was a little kid and Santa was coming. I bought this trash can, this big trash can, and it was a Cowboy trash can, and my husband was like, "You are not bringing that trash can into the house." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not. Santa is bringing it in." And my husband didn't talk to me for I don't know, week, 10 days, because I brought that Cowboy trash can and it went under the Christmas tree, and he was so mad over that. And then he really was just a funny guy. And I remember when he was growing up, and our house was the house that everybody hung out at, because I would I'd rather have them at my house than out running the streets or whatever.
Right.
And the song Apple Bottom Jeans by Flo Rida. So you have to listen to that song, because Sean said that song was about me. And I'm a little wide at the bottom. And when he brought his wife to our house, the first time I ever met his fiance, or whatever you want to call her, but it was him and her, my daughter-in-law, and my daughter. And my son Sean was like very straight-faced, and he says to his sister, when something happens to mom and we have her cremated, do you want the top half or the bottom half?
Yeah.
And his sister is like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I think I want the top half, because mom has a good heart. She's a good cook, blah, 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 blah." And his sister says to him, "Why?" And he said, "As straight-faced as you guys are right now, because whoever gets the bottom half has to have a bigger urn." And he told that story, I don't even know how many times, because he thought that was funny as crap, that he would tell that story. And so you think about stories like that, and you tell those stories again, and because they're funny, and they're good memories, and they're a great way to connect with and let other people know how crazy my kid was.
Well, he sounds like a great kid. He really does.
He was.
And I'm sure you miss him. No mother should ever bury a child. I couldn't imagine losing one of my children. Just couldn't imagine. I could sit here. Yeah, I know what it feels like. I hope to God I never know what it feels like.
Well, I think with suicide, you're right. You should never have to bury your children. But I think with suicide, because it is so quick and done, you never get to say what you feel like you should have said before that day.
Right. I think
Because there's no rhyme or reason for it. You don't know why people do what they do.
and you'll never know.
No, no,
Never know. You never understand it.
no.
No, I get it. I talk to mothers all the time, and I hear the same thing. They just don't understand why.
Right.
So, and I get it. I think it has to be hard. It's hard to accept, I guess it is. So you have my deepest condolences for your loss. No,
Thank
like
you.
no child, no parent should ever bury a child. It just shouldn't be. I want to thank you for sharing your story tonight.
Sure.
About your child, I'm sure. That's, seems like a really great thing.
He was a good kid.
Are you with us, Amy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing tonight, Amy?
Kind of lost your video.
Yeah, it's windy here.
Yeah. Amy, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your son?
Well, my son Cody, kind of like Angie's, wanted to be in the military for a long time. He knew from the time he was like 7 or 8 years old that he was going into the military, and he had his mind made up. There was no change in his mind. He came home his senior year in high school and handed me the papers and told me I could sign them or not sign them, that he was going with or without my. And I signed them reluctantly, and I let him go. And he entered into the military on October 2011. I drove him to the recruiting station myself. And that's where everything started. He set out and accomplished everything that he wanted to. He wanted to be in part of 82nd Airborne, and that's what he did. And he seemed to enjoy it at first, but then there were times that he didn't, and that type of thing. So I don't think it was everything that he wanted it to be, but I don't think anything ever is when you first get involved in anything. But he got out in 2015 and came home, and I had encouraged him because I knew when he came home he wasn't the same kid that I dropped off in 2011, to go and get help, and he didn't want to at first, very reluctant and that type of thing, and he kind of floundered, and he was really lost, like a fish out of water, for a long time, and was hard to figure out what he was going to do. And then he finally got some employment and that type of thing, and seemed to be okay for a little while. And then he met a girl, and they dated for a while, and then his first son was born. And he seemed to be a little bit more grounded and that type of thing. And there were a few bumps in the road as far as things went, but for the most part, they were able to co-parent and do what was right, and that type of thing. And he started his own business, was doing well. He got into raising German Shepherds, which he absolutely loved. He even had one trained to go and retrieve cadavers and that type of thing. And he was happy doing that, and everything as far as that went. Then he went and he went and met another girl, and he had ended up at the time right before he died. He found out he had another child on the way. So he that's kind of like where he was with everything. He's, he was a good guy. He would give you his shirt off his back and everything as far as that went. He had a sarcastic personality. He was blunt and to the point. Everything was very black and white with Cody. If you didn't like what Cody had to say, that was just too bad. So that's where he was.
Dear Lord, tell us a little bit, a little funny, little hiccup about him.
About Cody?
Yeah, did he make you laugh?
Yeah, Cody did. He would make you laugh. It was a lot of. He was really funny when he was in school. Cody would go against the grain a lot. A lot of times when I got a phone call from school, I knew it had to do with Cody. He was all the time trying to get out of being in school suspension. Probably one of the funniest things I got was a phone call from the assistant principal telling me that my son had been walking the track without a shirt on, and he was told to put his shirt on multiple times, and he told the coach that he was working on his farmer's tan. And I needed to explain to the administration what a farmer's tan was. And I was just shaking my head and could not believe what I was hearing at the moment. And my son was in the background saying that he needed to get a tan because he only had one arm that had sun on it from driving. And then they said they were going to have to send him to in-school suspension. And he said, well, my mom will just write me a note and I'll be out. And I said, no, I'm not. You're going to in-school suspension. And he tried everything to get out of in-school suspension. He would tell me that he was sick and he had this, he had that, da 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 da. And I would make him go. And you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth. Sometimes he would sometimes come up with funny things. You never knew what was going to happen and that type of thing. So yeah, he had a great personality. His friends miss him and everything as far as that goes.
It felt like he was a great kid too. I guess that's all you have are the memories now. And that's what has to get you through the day.
It is, but having his two sons is helped me a lot. At the time of his death, he had his firstborn, Buddy. He was 5 at the time of his death. And then in March of 2023, his second child was born, which he never got to meet, and his name is Hudson. And so seeing Cody and his sons has been a real blessing for me. And that has helped me a lot. So it's like watching Cody grow up again.
And that's got to be wonderful.
So that helps a lot.
It's got to bring you a lot of joy.
Yes. It is, because I see so much of Cody in both of them, and their facial expressions or things that they'll say, and I'll catch myself going, okay, that sounds just like your father, or whatever, as far as that goes. So yes, I catch myself a lot, thinking that's exactly what Cody would do, or anything as far as that goes. I do.
Yeah. And again, as I said earlier, no mother should ever bury a child. So I can't imagine the pain and the heartful there is in losing a child. So God bless each and every one of you for what you're going through.
Well, thank you. It does leave a hole in your heart that you cannot ever, replace. And I'm very lucky that, I have his siblings and my grandchildren and that type of thing. And Cody has 2 other brothers and a twin sister that's left behind. And he's got a lot of cousins that loved him dearly. And the biggest thing are his children. So I strive really hard to keep his memory alive for the sake of those boys, and so that they will know what kind of person their dad was, and what kind of man that he was, and that type of thing.
Again, I can't imagine what a mother feels at losing a child. So God bless you and everything
Thank
you're
you.
going through now. Vicky, young lady, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Vicky, tell us a little bit about your son.
He was a great kid, as most mothers would say. When he was 5 years old, he started gaming. He was a huge gamer all of his life, and it was crazy when he was 5. He was figuring out the strategies and how to get through games, and you could tell that his mind was always working. He was really smart, and when he entered kindergarten, it was actually suggested that he get involved in the enrichment program. So he was in the advanced placement type schooling when he was in grade school. So he was always pretty smart, and he was always happy. He was a fun kid. As he got older, of course, he was just always wanted people around him happy. I know even when he entered in the military, that was one of the things that they all said about him, is that he always kind of went for the underdog, the person that maybe didn't get enough attention, or the person that was quiet. He was always trying to make people happy,
Right.
and that he carried that kind of throughout life, all the time. We had no idea he suffered from depression. Wasn't really a good thing. Back up a little bit. After he got out of high school, he entered into college and wanted to get into he wanted to be a police officer. So he entered into law enforcement, and he was just 7 credits away from graduating. And he decided he wanted to join the military. And I was so upset at the time when he did that, because I thought he was just throwing away his career that he was working so hard for. And when he did enter into the military, he actually was trying to make that his career. And so his first enlistment, he was at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And then his second deployment, enlistment, which was the downfall, is he was up in Alaska in Anchorage. And with suffering from depression and all, that just was not the place to be. He was so far away. And I don't know if it was, the darkness all the time or whatever, but it was not a good place. And so that's where we lost him, is when he was up in Anchorage, Alaska. But he was a great kid, loved to go deer hunting, kind of outdoorsy. And that's why he thought he was going to end up in Alaska, and that's where he was going to be the rest of his life. And I kind of snickered when he told me, because until you get there, you don't really know what it's going to be like. And once he got there, he didn't like it as much as he thought he was going to. And he was trying to get back down into the lower 48, and he wanted to actually get into the space program. And unfortunately, we didn't make it that far. So that's where we ended up. But
I'm sure going through the loss of a child, like I said earlier, I can't imagine a pain deeper than that.
Well, and it's kind of, I was so angry at the time when it happened. So going back to COVID, March 17th, my business was shut down because of COVID. I have a nail salon, and of course, all salons were shut down. April 3rd is when he took his life. And prior to that, he actually was having some issues, and he had sought help with the Army. And for whatever reason, it wasn't working. And so he sought help outside of the Army. And after just 3 sessions with a counselor, it was shut down because of COVID. And so we got the word, of course, on April 4th, what had happened, and immediately booked flights to Alaska, and got word then from my casualties officer that Alaska had just shut down. And so if we were to fly, or if I was to fly in there, I'd be immediately escorted to a hotel, and I would be quarantined for 14 days,
Wow.
which would not have done any good to fly up there. He left behind a wife and a 5-year-old daughter. And the Army was, of course, helping them through the journey and getting, all of the necessarily legal things done. But of course, they were, absolutely hysterical. And so it was important that I tried to get there as soon as I could. It took me a week of calling airports and local government officials and TV stations and just trying to find. I tried contacting the governor of Alaska and the governor of Minnesota to find out what would happen if I actually flew in there and if I could fly in there. And finally, after a week, I did get the information that I needed, and I ended up in Alaska. But it took a week to get there, and I'm so glad that I was able to get there when I did, because I was able to see him and kiss him goodbye. And then he was cremated. Then a couple days after that, or I wouldn't have been able to see him.
Right.
So that was a struggle. But it took, then once I got back home from Minnesota, I walked into the airport in we have a local airport where I live, and there were 11 veterans from the Eagles Healing Nest, which is a healing home for veterans in Sauk Center, Minnesota. And 11 of those veterans came to welcome me home, and they were all standing in lines holding American flags. And so I had a great homecoming, which I really needed that after the week in Alaska. And then it took 5 months before we could finally have a memorial for him because of COVID. And I found out that as long as we held it on private property, we could do what we wanted. And so we held at the Eagles Healing Nest, and we had military honors because of local DFWs and legions, because the military was not performing military honors at that time. So we were able to give him everything he deserved. And so since then, I've been working very closely for the last 5 years with the Eagles Healing Nest. I'm now on their board of directors. We keep our camper there. We're there almost every weekend in the summer, and it's such an amazing place. And then we started, my husband and I together, we started a walk. It's called the Panda Project. And actually, we're going to start transforming it into something other than just a walk. But with the Panda Project, we've raised in the last 5 years over $100,000 for the Eagles Healing Nest.
Wow.
For the healing of the veterans there.
That's amazing. It really is.
And Michael, thank you too so much for what you do with your memorial. My son's name is on it because of you and a good friend, Randy Olson, who contacted you. But I appreciate it so much having his name.
That memorial is built to honor these brave veterans who took their life because of their PTSD. They need to be honored and remembered. And that's why at the ceremony, we always read the names of the veterans that are already added regretfully to the memorial. And the memorial's not it's for the veterans who committed suicide, but I'd like to think we're doing it more to help the families maybe heal just a little bit, because technically they really get nothing from the military. Nothing. There's very little recognition when their son or daughter commits suicide. So
Yes.
The whole purpose of the memorial was to give these families some closure and let somebody know that they appreciate the loss of their child. That's our sole purpose of that memorial, as Ken will tell you.
Yeah.
Lots of families.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That whole memorial, I don't. First of all, I apologize. I lost my feed. They're working on my internet outside. So I had to go to my phone, and I apologize for that. Ladies, I'll tell you what. I didn't say a lot because I wanted to hear your stories. I wanted people out there. I need people to hear your feelings. And I didn't want to interrupt you in any way, shape, or form. people out there need to know about you, what you're going through. And that memorial out there in Shanahan, Illinois, is near and dear to my heart. I do a lot in the shadows in the background. And Michael is, Michael's Michael. But it's all about you. It's all about the families. And that's what it all comes down to. Again, I apologize for the internet interruption. But I got to tell you right now, I'm going to say it. Being a Navy veteran of 10 years, you got to be some of the strongest women I have ever met in my entire life. And, I don't know, and I can't say what I want to say because I've never experienced what you've gone through. But I give you so much credit, and you guys are my heroes. I hate to say it. You ladies are strong.
And just know that Kenny and I are here for you. If there's anything we could do in any way, shape, or form to help you in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. That's what we want. And we're so honored to have added your son's name to that memorial. That was our honor.
Thank you.
We need to let the world know that these boys and girls were here. My takeaway message, and Kenny will tell you, is that I tell everybody, if you leave here in this ceremony with nothing else, leave here with the knowledge that we're here to honor these great veterans who sacrificed so much for our country, and they paid the ultimate price, and they should
I'm on Facebook, ladies. I'm on Facebook, so I'm very easy to get a hold of, but I will help you out any way I possibly can. I got to get your stories out there, and that's what it's all about.
That's why we wanted to have you on tonight to help you and hear you talk about your sons. Hopefully, to helps other mothers that are going through this right now. That they're gonna get through this. They will. It'll be hard, but they will do it. I want to thank you all for being. Kenny and I are tonight on tonight's podcast. And please don't ever forget if there's anything we could do for you. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, please reach out.
God bless you, ladies, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, lady.
Appreciate everything you've done. Thank you for putting Cody's name on the memorial as well. And I do hope that with this, that it'll hopefully break the stigma as well for mental health and with the military and that type of thing, and be able to help others so that other moms are not put in this position. Because I know for myself, I would love to have my membership revoked to this club, because it's the grief. Yes, we grieve every day, and the grief is, we live with it, but it reshapes our whole life. And it's something that you have to live with, and a lot of people don't understand it. And luckily, I do have a great support group, and I have a great family and that type of thing. And that's the key. But a lot of people, unfortunately, do not. And it sounds like Vicky's got a great thing going there. And I know that Angie does as well. And that's the key to it. None of us want any of our boys to be forgotten or anything. And if nothing else, at least something positive will come out of what happened to all of our boys.
Right. And again, ladies,
that's what we're all about. You have to remember.
Thank you for being my guest tonight and getting your story out there. Yeah, hopefully it'll
Thank
give
you.
some other mothers that are experiencing regretfully the same thing. So God bless you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And honestly, too, one thing that I want to add, I mean, I know this is, obviously we're at a point where we've lost our sons, but if there is any veterans out there that are listening, or if anybody knows of any veterans who are out there that are struggling, if you've never heard of the Eagles Healing Nest, check into it. And even moms who have lost their sons, Angie and Amy, you're always welcome at the Nest to come. I mean, it's for veterans and their families to heal. And it's been such a great place for me to be able to, I mean, the veterans mean everything. There's usually about 75 veterans who live there at any given point. And it's not government run. It runs completely on donations. So no red tape, and it really works. But get the word out there, because that place does help the veterans. I've seen it and I've watched it, and it's helped me so much too.
God bless you for what you're doing. Really, it means a lot that you're helping these other veterans get through a bad time. So
Yeah, I wish it would have been there and I would have known about it prior to losing my son, but unfortunately we know what hindsight is. So, but if we can help going forward, I want to help as much as I can.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that I wanted to say was you got a voice right now. You're out there. You're doing this podcast. You need to tell people out there. Um, you know, look for the signs. Look for the signs. And I wish I could turn back time. I can't. But you women are so strong, so powerful, and what you're doing right now is, one of the greatest things that I've ever experienced, and I appreciate it, and I want to thank you for that.
God bless you.
Well, I thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
I'm going to kind of speak for Vicki and Amy. I think I take every opportunity I can to talk about Sean.
No.
You find, especially Sean was still active duty. With suicide, there are two distinctly different sides of that coin. There are people that are empathetic and sympathetic to you, and there are people that have not so nice things to say about your child because they took it the coward's way out.
Absolutely.
Why would you do that?
Absolutely.
There's different organizations that don't feel like as a mom that I should belong to because my child died by suicide. But as I said at the beginning, I'm very proud of how he served, and I am not ashamed of how he died.
As you should be.
You shouldn't be.
When I did his eulogy, the one thing that I said is that I have absolutely no regrets when it comes to Sean and how he was raised and not every, for me personally, that kid knew I loved him unconditionally, no matter what. And I know that he loved me, and not every parent is that lucky
Right.
to have that relationship with the child. So, people are either, like I said, sympathetic, empathetic with you with this suicide thing, or they're not. They just don't.
Right.
I mean, we surely don't
They don't get it.
understand it. And if we can't understand it, I do want to understand it.
Wow.
But just, when you talk to people and people ask you questions, just remember, even though our children died like that, they were still our children.
Right.
And so, you have to give, some of us some grace.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
You got to understand, some people, when they talk to you, they think it's going to jump off of you onto them, and they don't get it. They don't understand what's going on, what you're going through. It's sad. But I got to give you, like I said, I got to give you a lot of credit to do what you're doing right now, talking about it. Most people couldn't, and that's why you're very powerful women, and you know, you make this all so good for everybody else, and everybody needs to hear it. And thank you.
God bless you, ladies. Thank you again
Thank
for
you.
being with us tonight.
Thank you.
I wish only the best for you. And remember, Kenny and I are always be here for you. The memorial will always be in tribute to your child. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.